let's look at what a function is. A function is basically a fancier way to say a relation between two variables. So when I see an equation like this, it says y equals f of x. X is a variable, y is another variable, and the f is the relation describing the function that describes the relation between the input variable and the output variable. Okay, so both x and y are just the names. Okay, so I can have a variable, the input variable named u, and output variable named w, and I can have the function named g or h. So if I say w equals g of u, it's still talking about the same idea. G is a function, a relation about the input variable u and the output variable w. Okay, so here I just have a name. I don't tell you exactly what that relation is. So in order to see what it is, you actually have to describe what that function is. So let's look at this first example. Y equals f of x. So f of x is name of the relation, right? And the relation is being described by x squared. So what does that mean? That means whenever I have an input value, then the output value y follows this relation. So when x equals 0, y equals 0 squared, so it equals 0, 2. Alright, when x equals 1, then following this rule, what is the y value? 1 squared, so y equals 1. And when x equals 2, following this value, what's the output value y? It would be because 2 squared equals 4, right? Like that. So if we just keep plotting the points, we will see that for any x value, we have the output y value looking like this. And this whole thing together is called the graph of function f, like that. All right? So you are supposed to know this basic functions, how to graph this basic function. So for example, y equals x, y equals x squared. So that's this one is a parabola. And we have y equals x to the power 3, and last we have y, like y equals root x, and we can have y equals 1 over x. All right? So if you know what these graphs look like, that's good. If you don't know, you should look this up. Okay, so one way you can do is, let's say if you have a Mac computer, like Apple computer, then there's an app called Grapher. It's a built-in app, so you can just call out Grapher and type in this function. And if you have PC, then you can use like other online graphers. So there are ways you can find out what they look like. Okay. So make sure that if you don't know, make sure that you go look up and know like roughly what they look like. Okay. Let's move to the next one. Here I have another function. Okay. So again, f is the function, it's the relation that tells us how x and y are related. Okay. So this type of function is called piecewise function. Piecewise defined function. Let's look at how we should read this. Okay, so if you have experience with any type of programming language, this is basically the if command. When I have an input value x, okay, then it goes to the logical here. If x equals 2, then output value is 0, because it says if x equals 2, then y equals 0. If the input value, let's say 3, when x equals 3, then we know 3 is not equal to 2, so that falls into this case. And when x is not equal to 2, what is the relationship? What is the output value y? It says y should equal 1. That's how it's like an if environment. Okay, so let's see. We know that when x equals 2, so 1, 2, 2 is here. When x equals 2, the output value is 0, so we have a given big solid dot there. And let's look at other examples. Let's say when x equals 1, then 1 is not, it's different from 2, right? So the output value according to the given relation, you cannot create your own relation. You have to follow what's given, okay? So don't be creative. You have to follow the rules. And so over here, when x equals 1, the output value y is equal to 1. Okay, so right over here, all right? And what about this? Let's say it's 1.7. Okay, 1.7 again is not equal to 2, so the associated output value is 1. So again, false here. And you can see that for all values that's not equal to 2, the output value, all the output values are 1. So it goes like a flat line, right? So like here, for this x value, the output value is 1. For this x value, the output value is 1. So everything's the same, okay? But I want to emphasize, when x equals 2, you have a different output value. So that's put a big empty circle to emphasize the line does not go across this dot. When x equals 2, the associated value is 0. Okay, so I have to later follow what's given here. Okay, so when you see a function like this, piecewise defined function, you have to look at what input value you have. Okay, so it falls into this category, then that's your output value. If that's in this category, then you use this formula. All right. So let's just do one more example, just to be safe. Let's do example 3. This one is a little more complicated, but we can do it. Remember, you are good at math, but you have to be patient. Patient means sometimes it takes more than 1 steps. And we just need to do 1 step at a time. So suppose I have a function, again, I'm just call this function f. I can call it g or h. It's not too important. Okay, so let me write another one. Let's say y equals x. Okay, y equals x. If the input value x is less than 0, and the y equals 0 if x equals 0, and y equals x squared if x is greater than 0. All right, so you can see that it's more complicated now, but we can still do it. Again, the key is you need to be patient. Being patient means you will read this line by line. All right. Okay. So again, to see the graph, let's create a XY chart. All right. So the middle one is easy. Okay. So when x equals 0, the output value is 0. So let's take care of this part first. When x equals 0, 0 is here, y value is 0. If I had y value being something else, then I read the given function, the given information, and do the plot accordingly. When x is negative, so the left hand side of the origin is where x is negative. The right hand side is where x is positive. So we're looking at this part. So for example, -1's here, -2's here, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, so y equals x. Let's see. When x equals -1, then the corresponding output value is -1 because y is the same as the x value. Okay, so this is -1. Let's go down by 1 unit. This is where we are. When x is equal to -2, now read this. When x is equal to -2, we know that it's in this category. Then y equals the same x value. So over here, for x equal to -2, y should equal -2, and I actually know that it gives me a straight line, okay, like that. All right, so done. That's the part. That's it for when x is positive, okay? So that's the right hand side of the x. But remember the example 1 that we just did. Y is equal to x squared. So when x equals 1, the y is 1 squared. When x equals 2, y is equal to 2 squared. So that's 4. Remember what the problem looks like. It looks like this, right? So y equals x squared. The whole thing is a parabola that looks like this. But we don't care about this part because here we only care about when x is positive, so we only take this part. Okay, so that's what you have over here. Oops. Okay. So again, the key is you need to be patient. You read this line by line when you see a piecewise defined function. Okay, so now you know what a function is. A function is a relation, and this f is just a name, so I can name the function different variables. I can say w equals g of u, right? So in that case, I will have like a u w plane, because u is the input value, w is output value. All right. Okay, so there you go, the function.